with his family laughing with him. My husband James said mockingly from the driver's seat, "Take a nice walk," as their opulent SUV departed from the far-off gas station. I stood there stunned, one hand on my 8-month pregnant tummy, as their taillights vanished and they left me behind to go to their beach resort holiday. The scorching Florida sun pounded down on me. I'm Kayla Thompson, and I believed I understood what betrayal felt like until that point. However, it was a whole new level of cruelty to witness my spouse of 3 years desert his pregnant wife in a remote gas station. I could still see his sister Ashley and mother Diana grinning as they drove away. Sitting in the back seat. We had been traveling to Daytona Beach when it began as a typical restroom break. In my 3rd trimester, walking was getting more and harder, so I'd ask James to wait while I went to the bathroom. They were all laughing and pointing at me through the car windows as I got out. They drove off before I could get to the car, leaving me stranded in the intense heat. Tom, the proprietor of the gas station, was an elderly guy with soft eyes who saw it all. He ushered me into the air-conditioned shop right away and handed me a cool beverage. The entire property is covered by security cameras, he continued, his voice tense with rage. What they did was incorrect. While sitting in his little office, I tried to take in the events that had just transpired. My handbag, my phone, and everything else were in the car. I had nothing but my sundress when I was actually stranded. Barbara, Tom's wife, who helped run the business, gave me some water and crackers. With a flush of righteous rage, Barbara said, "I'm calling the local news. People must see this. Is there a man who abandons his expectant wife? And his family is giggling over it? It's not right. I ought to have been ashamed or attempted to stop her. Instead, I experienced an odd wave of peace. Let them make the news call. Let the world see James Wilson for what he truly was." Feeling my baby daughter kick and massaging my big tummy, I realized that this was no longer just about me. This was to shield my kid from a household that found brutality funny. Looking back, it was clear that James and his family were a problem from the start. 3 years ago, James appeared different from his family, kinder, more sincere, when we first met him at a charity dinner. He worked as a corporate officer for Florida Values Insurance, a business that took pleasure in upholding traditional family values. I liked working with children when I was a kindergarten teacher. In spite of his family's tacit opposition, we were married within a year after falling in love. My mother-in-law, Diana, oversaw the Wilson Family Foundation, a prominent nonprofit organization in Jacksonville that hosted high-profile events. I was often reminded by her that I wasn't exactly part of their social group. Even though I always hoped James would marry someone more accomplished. She would comment, "It's sweet that you work with children," in a condescending tone. Even worse was James's sister, Ashley. Like the time she asked me to a casual lunch that turned out to be a formal charity board meeting, where I was embarrassed in my plain sundress amid women in beautiful suits. She had planned other social events to make me feel inferior. "Oh, I guess I forgot to mention the dress code," she smirked. But, at least initially, James had always stood up for me. When I became pregnant, that was different. He seemed to have a switch that switched. All of a sudden, he began to view me as an embarrassment, laugh at his sister's nasty jokes, and agree with his mother's judgment. I was reminded of the present by Tom's voice. As he checked his phone, he stated that the news crew will arrive in approximately 1 hour. Additionally, the surveillance film I have available makes everything extremely evident. Barbara gave me another water bottle. "My sweetheart, you have trembling hands. When did you most recently eat?" I forgot to eat lunch due to the excitement of our final getaway before the baby's birth. James had insisted on having his family join us, saying it would help them bond. I said, I should have realized something was wrong when he forced me to sit in the back seat so his mother could sit up front. They laughed and whispered all the while, and he explained that it was because she gets car sick. Barbara became stern-faced. Obviously, when everyone sees what they did, they won't be laughing. Channel 7 News is where my nephew works. This narrative won't remain silent. I promise. I used Tom's telephone to contact my closest friend Nicole as I waited for the news crew. She had never trusted James or his family. particularly after last month's events at my baby shower. Thank God you're okay, Kayla, Nicole said. Check out what they're sharing on social media at the moment. Tom turned to face me as he logged into Facebook on his computer. James had just uploaded a set of pictures on his Facebook 20 minutes prior. I read the caption with trembling hands. Finally, I was free for a peaceful family vacation. The Wilson lifestyle simply isn't for everyone. As if nothing were wrong. James, Diana, and Ashley were shown drinking drinks while relaxing by the resort pool. Their friends and family congratulated them on their escape and laughed at the comments that flooded in. According to Nicole, there's more. Next week, Diana's organization will hold a fundraiser to promote responsibility and family values. The hypocrisy is extraordinary. On his other monitor, Tom's surveillance footage was playing. I saw James's SUV move away purposefully as I walked out of the restroom. My pregnant tummy showing. They could hear their laughter clearly enough. Barbara watched the video and mumbled. Those aren't people. They are monsters. I had left my hospital bag and phone in the car. I had meticulously packed the suitcase with everything I would need because my due date was quickly approaching. I was really struck by the realization. They didn't simply vanish from my life. They would purposefully endanger my baby. I felt a searing ache in my stomach. Barbara caught sight of it right away and took my hand. Do you have contractions, honey? Braxton Hicks. Alone. I gave her my word. But I gasped with another pang. I believe they are. Anyhow, emergency services already had Tom on the phone. He responded that taking precautions was preferable to making mistakes. It takes 40 minutes to go to the closest hospital. Just as planned, a vehicle from the local news arrived at the parking lot. After taking one glance at my situation, the reporter, a lady named Jennifer Parker, made a choice. First, we're taking you to the hospital, she stated firmly. There, we may do the interview. Abandonment is no longer the only theme of this narrative. It has to do with putting an unborn kid in jeopardy. I noticed additional media cars coming as they assisted me into the press van. Evidently, many were already interested in the story. Another contraction came, stronger than the last, and my hands trembled. Jennifer held my hand while they drove and reassured me that the doctors would take good care of me. Additionally, we will ensure that everyone is aware of the true nature of the Wilsons. I became aware that this was far more than just me as I looked out the window at the assembling media circus. The darkest times in our lives can occasionally bring about unanticipated justice. An unexpected headquarters for what was rapidly becoming a viral news story was the hospital's maternity unit. I was no longer having contractions. The physicians stated it was stress-induced false labor. However, they intended to observe me overnight. By nightfall, all of Florida's major news outlets had shown the gas station security tape. A nurse poked her head into my room and said, "Mrs. Wilson, more reporters are requesting an interview with you. Do I have to mail them off?" Just as I was ready to respond, my phone rang. Nicole had retrieved it from the resort where James and his family were staying and brought it to me. After learning of the discovery in their room, a staff member contacted them to offer assistance. Nicole said in an anxious tone, "Kayla, switch on Channel 7 right now. Diana is being interviewed at the resort." The nurse guided me to the appropriate channel. My mother-in-law was there, attempting to weave a tale while looking immaculate in her high-end resort attire. "This is all a misunderstanding," Diana told the reporter with ease. "Lately, Kayla has been quite emotional. You know, pregnancy hormones. We honored her request to get some alone time. The journalist didn't believe it. Your kid and your family may be seen laughing on our surveillance camera as you drive off." It was 95 degrees. Mrs. Thompson was 8 months pregnant. And she had neither a phone nor a handbag. How would you describe that? Diana's calm exterior gave way a little. The video must be deceptive. Traditional values have always been the cornerstone of our family. As they chuckled, the broadcast shifted to the surveillance footage, which showed their SUV moving away. The sound was really clear. James's derisive voice echoed, "Take a nice walk." Notifications began ringing on my phone. Indignant remarks were pouring into the Wilson Family Foundation's social media accounts. Their biggest backers were openly abandoning them. On Twitter, James's business Florida Values Insurance was trending. Your story has gone national. Jennifer Parker stated as she and her camera team entered my room. People are incensed. Do you wish to express yourself? I imagined James and his family, who were presumably still enjoying the pool and believing they were invincible. I considered other ladies who may find themselves stuck with somebody similar to them. I sat up taller in the hospital bed and responded, yes, I would want to discuss what transpired. The interview was honest and unvarnished. I explained how James's conduct had altered when I was pregnant and how his family had planned this trip to make me seem bad. I brought up the baby bag containing my medical records that they had stolen, demonstrating their lack of concern for my child's security. More texts came in as I was speaking. James's co-workers were publicly separating from one another. In a statement, the CEO of his organization expressed their serious worry about the occurrence and said they will be looking into it further. Jennifer remarked softly, "Your story has touched a nerve, Mrs. Thompson." Similar stories of emotional abuse and desertion are being shared by women across. You have initiated a movement. I put my hand on my stomach and felt my daughter kick. I told the camera that I wasn't doing this for retribution. My kid deserves to know that her mother confronted bullies, even if they were members of her family, and that no one should have to go through what I did today. By morning, the story had taken off in a way I never would have thought possible. On a national morning program, Tom, the owner of the petrol station, revealed that his security cameras had recorded a troubling discussion in addition to the abandonment before I had even left the restroom. Tom told the millions of people watching that they were planning it. This will teach her to embarrass our family, the mother-in-law was heard saying on the recording. They were making fun of the idea of abandoning a pregnant lady. Who does that? Nicole's cheeks glowed with news as she hurried into my hospital room. You must see this. Kayla. Emails from Diana's foundation were released. She showed me internal Wilson Family Foundation messages on her iPad. Diana specifically said that a pregnant kindergarten teacher wasn't Wilson material in the emails, which exposed a planned effort to keep me apart from James. However, Ashley's leaked texts to James were the true surprise. When the child is born, we will be able to prove she is an unsuitable mother. Your work at Mom's Foundation Connections and Florida Values Insurance will ensure that we are granted custody. The realization struck me like a punch to the body. It wasn't just about making me seem bad. They had intended to abduct my child. Mrs. Thompson? At my door, a man in a suit introduced himself as Michael Roberts, Chief Ethics Officer of Florida Values Insurance. Could we have a private conversation? Once Nicole left, he addressed the matter directly. James's job has been terminated. With immediate effect. Our organization cannot be linked to someone who would intentionally plan to keep a mother away from her kid and put a pregnant lady at risk. He presented a folder to me. These screen grabs from James's work email demonstrate how he looked for custody attorneys who focused on maternal fitness cases using business resources. We're giving your legal team complete control. As I went through the records, my hands began to shake. James had been preparing to take advantage of my emotional fragility for months, recording every minor error I made. And one more thing, Michael said solemnly. James has a history of workplace harassment. According to our HR department, previously hesitant to make complaints, a number of female colleagues have suddenly stepped forward. Mrs. Thompson, this is not just about you. You've revealed a structural issue. Jennifer Parker came back with shocking news as he was leaving. The Wilson Family Foundation was being publicly distanced from Diana's biggest charitable partners. They were no longer members of the esteemed country club where they hosted their social gatherings. Their carefully crafted sphere of influence was coming apart. Jennifer stated that the resort just asked them to leave. Their visitors were griping about having to live with those awful folks they saw on the television. As we speak, they are being led away. It buzzed on my phone. It was a call from an unknown number. It came from Florida Values Insurance's assistant to James. His corporate car's dash cam footage was saved by me. For weeks, he and his mother planned this. I was unable to remain silent any longer. As I watched the assembling media crews outside my hospital window, I reflected on how swiftly the truth may be revealed. The Wilsons intended to ruin me, but instead they destroyed themselves by their own deeds. The following day, an unexpected guest arrived, Amanda, James's former executive assistant, who appeared anxious and was holding a hefty folder. She murmured, settling onto the chair next to my hospital bed. I can't keep quiet anymore. The strategy for custody? Getting the kid wasn't the only thing at stake. Money is at stake. Lots of stuff. Amanda laid down papers all over my bed. Financial accounts, trust fund documents, and insurance policies presented a troubling image. In connection with my pregnancy, James and his family had obtained a number of policies, including a sizable life insurance policy that I was unaware of. They wanted to portray you as unstable, Amanda said, her voice trembling. There was more to the abandoning than malice. It was intended to elicit a stress response that they could record. At that petrol station, if you had gone into labor. The implications sickened me. Nicole, who had been listening in silence, raised her voice. This must be sent to the FBI. This is no longer merely a news article that went viral. An effort at insurance fraud has been made. We were going over the documentation when Jennifer Parker showed up. She suggested that we exercise caution in how we respond to this. There are still influential friends of the Wilsons. Already, they are attempting to use this as a PR ploy. As expected, a notification materialized on my phone. With tears running down her flawlessly manicured cheeks, Diana had sent a video message to the foundation's website. We just wanted to keep our grandchild safe, she said. We were really concerned about Kayla's unpredictable conduct. We didn't intend for the video to end when another call came in. James himself. I placed it on speaker after consulting with Amanda and Jennifer. Please, Kayla, baby, he pleaded. He had a honey-sweet voice. The situation has become unmanageable. Let's have a private conversation and resolve this. Consider our daughter. Her father is essential to her. I considered the planned cruelty, the custody arrangements, and the insurance policy. James, you're right. She is, in fact, dependent on her father. She wouldn't, however, put her life in danger for a cash plan. What are you discussing? His tone became abrasive. Kayla, watch what you say. Keep in mind who you are interacting with. James, no. Recall the person you interacted with. A kindergarten teacher who is adept at keeping track of everything. Who has your own paper trail, security footage, and witnesses at your disposal? Who has the national media following you around? There was a pause in the line. The phony sweetness vanished as he spoke again. This is something you'll regret. My relatives. Your family is done. I interrupted. Look at your phone. The FBI just revealed that it is looking into the foundation's financial situation. They seem to have received some quite intriguing documents. Amanda hung up her own phone with a sour grimace. She said the federal officials had just arrived at the hotel where they are staying. The fraud department of the insurance company is fully cooperating. I felt my daughter kick hard as I touched my stomach. I said, she will grow up knowing her mother stood up to bullies. It is more valuable than any trust money. Jennifer's team captured the FBI escorting Diana out of the hotel in handcuffs on tape. As she dealt with the fallout from her actions, her expertly constructed image fell apart. Justice can occasionally appear in unexpected ways. A week later, I was sitting in my hospital room holding my baby girl, Lily, who had made her appearance 2 weeks early. Beautiful and in perfect health. The Wilson family's demise was seen on the wall-mounted television. The anchor broke the breaking news that federal authorities had discovered a pattern of insurance fraud at the Wilson Family Foundation. The attempted exploitation of a pregnant lady was only the beginning. According to sources, now a desperate man facing federal accusations. The video shifted to James being brought out of his lawyer's office in handcuffs. James was no longer the slick CEO. The dissolution of Diana's foundation was underway. Its assets are frozen. Overnight, Ashley's social ties vanished. Tom and Barbara had left a message and flowers at the petrol station. The mother of your daughter is powerful. Any fancy family name is not as valuable as that. As we watched the CEO of James's firm make a remark, Nicole assisted me in adjusting Lily's blanket. A fund for victims of financial abuse and domestic manipulation is being established by Florida Values Insurance. The seed money was taken from James Wilson's bonus after he was fired. I gazed down at Lily, who was soundly asleep in my arms. instead of her father's brutality. She would learn about her mother's strength as she grew older. Getting even isn't always the greatest form of retaliation. It's about rising above the ashes and creating something greater. I was welcomed back to my kindergarten classroom 3 months later by the administration and parents who had supported me during the trauma. There was a framed newspaper story on my desk. A new state law is the result of a gas station abandonment case. Deliberately leaving a pregnant woman in hazardous circumstances is now a crime under the Thompson Protection Act. The judge emphasized Diana's premeditated brutality in imposing a 5-year term for insurance fraud. Notwithstanding her crocodile tears at the time, Ashley and James suffered comparable repercussions for their involvement in the plot. Change had been sparked by my narrative. I had been brought on as a consultant for Florida Values Insurance's new family protection programs. The invitations to speak were pouring in. Organizations for women, panels for corporate ethics. There are also training programs available for law enforcement. However, my best memories still occur in my classroom, teaching my young pupils to be polite and to confront bullies. Lily flourished, surrounded by my true family's affection. She was godmothered by Nicole. Nicole received frequent visits from Barbara and Tom, and the innumerable strangers who had turned into friends. The social media profiles of the Wilson family remained silent, reducing their once powerful influence to a warning. Recall that I once told a reporter who inquired about my message to others that sometimes our greatest strength comes from our worst situations. Growing up, Lily will understand that her mother did more than simply survive. She contributed to positive transformation.